Are you ready, my friends? Are you prepared? Are you not entertained? You will be. I hope so anyway. Because today, my friends, is the day we reveal the final big bad boss for Swords and Sandals Immortals. How you doing, everybody? This is, of course, Oliver Joyce from Whiskeybarrel Studios. I want to apologize because I didn't get you a video in the last week, and the last few videos have been really quite far placed from each other. You know, Christmas holidays, New Year and everything. Internet went down last week for a whole week. Thank you, National Broadband Network here in Australia. Meaning that I wasn't able to get the videos done. But finally, I've been meaning to do this for the last few weeks. And I've actually been teasing this for quite some time. A lot of people have been asking me, who's the bad guy in Sword and Sandals Immortals? I can tell you one thing, it's not Emperor Antares. That's a hard set in stone fact. But who is the bad guy? Well, it is, drumroll please, to be revealed real soon. Let's have a little bit of a backstory first before we get to that. And to do that, I'm going to have to refer to my notes because I'm getting old and I can't remember everything. All right, here we are. I've brought them up so I can read them off the screen. Swords and Sandals 1. The bad guy was, of course, Chaos, then known as Chaos the Scourge. And he was, of course, the last in a sort of tournament of 7 gladiators you fought on the island of Doomtrek. Then, in Sword and Sandals 2, it was, and probably the most famous villain in all of Sword and Sandals history, Emperor Antares. Of course, the game was called Emperor's Reign, and he was the last of, I think, 20 arena champions. Sword and Sandals 3, of course, took us to the Gladiator Ultratus, where we fought the automatons and their great leader, Ultratus Omega, who was, of course, the big sort of alien xenomorph-inspired boss with the 2 chainsaws. And, you know, pretty powerful and devastating enemy. Sword and Sandals 4, no boss. It was, of course, a series of tavern mini-games. I'm drinking tea today. There you go. I'm less hyped up. Or am I more hyped up? What do you think? Sword and Sandals 5 saw us fighting Emperor Antares once again, who was resurrected by the malevolence, and you know, had to find all the bits of the Grail and everything. And he was just kind of a shadow of his former self, though. And of course, in Crusader, we fought Antares. So we've used Antares twice, 3 times if you count Crusader. And some people want him to return again, but I think that would be kind of predictable. So he may be in there in some kind of cameo form. But, you know, I wanted a new antagonist, somebody who, you know, felt fresh to the series. But I also wanted somebody who was familiar to people and tied the series back. So I wanted somebody on more of a human scale, someone formidable, highly dangerous, but somebody who was a legendary gladiator who you could still take down in a one-on-one battle. I figured, who better to fight our gladiator hero than another gladiator? Now, I want you to cast your minds way back to Sword and Sandals 3. Now, the player's created hero fights their way through the Gladiator Ultratus tournament, defeats Omega Ultratus, and then is invited, along with Bargle, to complete in a gladiatorial, god damn it, tournament amongst the stars. This is where the game ended, and most people hoped Sword and Sandals 4 would continue the story. I always had hoped that would be the case, but you know, things being what they were, that wasn't the way. Got very sidetracked by the projects that followed. Today, I can reveal the bad guy for Sword and Sandals Immortals is, in fact, the Starbound Gladiator. And there he is, the Starbound Gladiator. The hero from Swords and Sandals 3 has turned renegade and is now the antagonist for Swords and Sandals Immortals. Now, let's talk about this. So more of the story is going to be revealed in the weeks and months to come. But in a nutshell, as I wrote in my master document for the game, this. Somewhere along the journey, the Starbound Gladiator was contacted by the Malevolence. Much like Emperor Antares before him, The gladiator was beguiled by dark magics of the powerful spirit. He was unable to resist temptation and struck a bargain for even more power. In exchange, he was to betray the automatons, win the tournament, and return to Brandor. He would then attempt to bring the malevolence through the great portal known as the Constellation Mirror, thus dooming all life on Tritonia. Now, the malevolence, of course, has been featured before in Swords and Sandals. He's a giant, sort of a dark cosmic presence. He's going to feature in Constellation Mirror, which is, the RPG I want to build once this is all over, if Swords and Sandals is still popular enough for me to do it. Now, the malevolence influenced Antares, and he was able to bring him back to life. And he's done the same with the former heroic Starbound Gladiator, who now returns to Tritonia, even more juiced up and powerful than ever. He was powerful enough to destroy Ultratus Omega Ultratus. And then he went to fight in the Galacticus Fantasticus tournament in the stars. And, he beat up on some heavy-duty alien gladiators and so on. And now he's coming back to wreak havoc. I'm going to read you some more from the master document. The automatons, sensing they've been betrayed, turn their own ships around and appear before the great rulers of Brandor. They explain the rogue Starbound Gladiator's plans and tell of his terrible new powers. Bargle suggests they appear to the Starbound Gladiator's pride and hubris. He now has the power to lay waste to armies, but will not face them as it is not his mission. However, perhaps a single hero could prove his undoing. For who would be so bold as to face the greatest gladiator in the galaxy? All agree a hero must arise to meet him in single combat. To find such a hero, tournaments across the realm will be held. Gladiators will not be made aware of the terrible plight facing the realm, lest mass panic sweep over Brandor, but instead will be offered great riches for rising as champions. Actually, that's changed. You were made aware of this from the beginning. I wrote this document a few months ago, but you actually told, hey, the Starbound Gladiator is coming. You got 300 days to take him down. 300 days to make this work. Okay. While the player competes on Brandor, the Starbound Gladiator competes amongst the stars. As each chapter passes, the player is informed of the Starbound Gladiator getting ever closer. Eventually, he returns for the final showdown, ready or not. So basically, the player has 300 days until the Starbound Gladiator arrives. And you can see here, this is some concept art for the Starbound Gladiator. The full Gladiator armor set is not quite done yet by my great artist, Bokimi. But I was inspired by, of course, ancient Rome and everything. Hence, you've got the sort of the laurel wreath up there. Also inspired by Daft Punk. There's a bit of Daft Punk in there. And, of course, Ulysses 31, a great cartoon from the 80s. And, of course, G-Force. If you remember Battle for the Planets and G-Force, classic cartoons. I wanted to have a gladiator who seemed heroic, but had turned evil. Someone intimidating, but not, obviously evil. In his sort of astronaut-style head sort of helmet, you can see reflected other stars, and that sort of kind of conveys a sense of hope and cosmic power and everything that is sort of contained within him. This is going to be a really interesting bad guy, because for the first time in Sword and Sandals, he's going to sort of confront you throughout the game, and he'll taunt you via his sort of interstellar communications as you progress through the game. And I think that's going to be quite fun to sort of, every 10 days, 15 days or whatever, you'll get messages from him as he gets closer and closer to Brandor and, of course, your inevitable fate. What do you think, guys? The Starbound Gladiator. Is that who you're expecting? Some people might have picked it. Others I'm not sure of. There is a lot to be said for sort of tying things back to previous series. And so many people wanted a Swords and Sandals 4 that was, the Galacticus Fantasticus. This isn't that game. But the hero from Sword and Sandals 3 returns from that tournament. I'm actually hoping to do some DLC, perhaps, if this game is successful, where you actually get to compete as that character in the Galacticus Fantasticus. I think it'd be really interesting to see how that happened. The Starbound Gladiator very much ties into this game, and having the countdown doomsday clock as he gets ever closer and closer, I think will make him a much more present villain than we've seen in the past. I mean, Emperor Antares sort of approached you after every tournament and, you know, gave you a few words, but I want there to be even more interaction. A good friend of mine, Silas Rowe, the game developer, who was also the inspiration for Stylonius of Southport and Mr. Amazing as well, he came up with those characters, suggested to me that I should have certain kind of like star portals throughout the game that you can go through and attempt to challenge him at any time. I think that will be cool, and it might end up going to the game. And of course, you're going to get your ass kicked if you do that. But it'll be an interesting way to sort of just show you how powerful this guy is going to be. He's going to be a mixture of, you know, melee and technology and magic, and he's going to really, really challenge all but the greatest gladiators. And because you've only got 300 days to face him, you're going to have to level up fast, make few mistakes, and, you know, really learn from your mistakes. So I want this game to be replayable. You may not defeat him your first time. Maybe try again with a different character build. I don't want it to be one of those games that you just grind and grind and grind and grind forever until the boss is just a walkover. That's not what I want for the game. All this anticipation has made my throat scratchy and harsh, but I'm really excited. I can't wait to show you more about the Starbound Gladiator in the days and weeks to come. And that's a little bit of the backstory, of course, for Swords and Sandals Immortals at long last. I've been keeping that very secret because I wanted that to be a big surprise. When you play the demo, in February 17, it comes out on the Steam Next Fest. And there's going to be a lot of publicity around that, I'm hoping, and a lot of interest. And you'll be able to play it in, you know, less than a month. You'll actually be able to play the first 2 areas where you get to go to Willard Sound and then down the road to Shackleford, which is a day's walk or so. Maybe it's 3 days walk, actually. And you'll be able to test out a few adventures and get a bit of a feel for the early story. And you'll even see the Starbound Gladiator's spaceship coming towards you in the introduction. So we are getting there. There's some exciting things to come, and February is going to be massive, massive for the game as most important month by far. It really is. So over the next few weeks, I'm really trying to tie everything together and get it all, up and running. I've got a Steam demo page approved and up, and the demo is now ready for Steam. I'm updating it, but that is all. Once I give it the green light, bam, it'll be live. I've got a QA team working on sort of bug fixes and improvements. That's a professional QA team, which my business partner has set me up with, and I'm really excited. They're combing through the game with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure it's going to work on your machine and my machine, and there's no game-breaking bugs. So there is a lot happening right now. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I changed my Patreon as well. It's now just the one-off tier. I think it's like a $6 tier or something like that. There's all these different tiers with the different options, but I feel like the best thing to do is just have the one tier. I'll be giving you updates every week and little bits of information and exclusive stuff when I can. And it's the best way for you to support me, other than buying the games, of course. But these legends, which I'm going to announce now, have been supporting the game for the last year or so, and I just want to give them a big shout out. Neighbor Jack, Jandaku Chanahi, Noah Gudajan, X-Up Omega, Ilya Gurovich, Jeffro of Hex 3D, Davi, Pielo34, Yunus Yalo, Hopeless, Daniel Funches, Brandon K, and Michael Loda. These guys, the people who just allow me to do that extra bit in Swords and Sandals, and I really appreciate your support throughout the months. And those who supported the Patreon but dropped out, I can understand that completely. Hey, if you want to become a patron, if you would like to be a patron, that would make my day. Away with you, Thargan. Yeah, the patrons are a small but hearty band, but I'd love you to join as well. If you can spare the equivalent of a cup of coffee a month, whatever it is. If you can't, totally cool too. Anyway, as I mentioned, Swords and Sandals Immortals is coming out as part of the Steam Next Fest in February 17. If you want to be notified of that and miss my updates, if you miss my updates here on YouTube and Twitter and everything, go wishlist it. Check out the trailer. This is the old trailer for those who haven't seen it yet, I'm going to be doing a new trailer in a couple of weeks, and that will replace this one. I'll keep this one up, but you know, the footage you see here is many months old, and a lot has changed since then. But you know, still, wishlist the game, and you'll get a notification from Steam when the demo comes out, which is very exciting. Swords and Sandals Immortals. Of course, the actual working title, the real title for the game, when you go to play a new single-player version of the game, is Swords and Sandals 6, The Starbound Gladiator. So that's the official title for the Swords and Sandals 6 component. But Swords and Sandals Immortals is also going to encompass that and the multiplayer, and then there'll be other DLC in the future, which will be, you know, Gladiator, what is it, Galacticus, Fantasticus, and all the rest, and you know, maybe even a Swords and Sandals 3 DLC. You know, there is a lot riding on Immortals, and I want to make this the definitive Swords and Sandals game. With your help, it can be. Anyway, that's it for today. If you like my channel, of course, you can subscribe below. Thanks to all nearly 7,000 of you who have subscribed. We're slowly building up. I really, I love your comments here on YouTube. It really makes me feel like there is this kind of world of Sword and Sandals fans out there. I just want to promise you now that I'm putting everything into this game. I really am, and I think it's going to be the best one ever. And your faith in me will be rewarded tenfold, because I think you're going to like this game. I promise you're going to like it. I'm excited. I love playing it. I think you'll like playing it too. Anyway, my friends, that's it for today. There'll be another video next week as we lead up to the big Steam Next Fest launch in February. Until next time, my friends, I salute you and bye for now.